Hello, welcome back to Sushi Live Coding. In this episode, we're gonna talk about Sverchok Vertex Color MK3 nodes. So this node has been updated. Basically, it's merged with the other node, Vertex Color New, it was called, and now it's become a single object, a single node. And to reduce confusion, because I made a lot of videos about Vertex Color, and I think it's a good time to talk about this node again. Basically, you have now the options to have both RGB and RGBA being calculated. So these options that's almost kind of hidden, but yeah, let's get started from scratch. I'm gonna save this as SV Vertex Color update. Okay, and let's go to 3D view. We can actually start with a 3D mesh in the 3D scene, so we don't need to make everything procedural for this. We can create a grid. So by default, a grid in Blender is 10 by 10. That means we have 10 by 10 points, 100 points, and 9 by 9, 81 polygon face. Let's make this maybe 100. Actually, I don't need to go too high, just 21. So we're gonna end up with 400 face. If I turn on the wireframe, you can see this is a 400 polygon face. Okay, and I'm gonna save it and switch on Sverchok. I'm gonna switch to cycles. We're gonna work in cycles and create a new node 3, and then gonna source these objects. So objects in, get selection, and so we have our grid now inside Sverchok with all these values from vertices point position, and we also have some polygon indices data and etc. Well, anyhow, we want to give some kind of vertex color, so we're gonna turn on material, give it a material, and with the cycle material, we're gonna give it an attribute input. The color goes in there, and the input is gonna be SVCol. SVCol is actually from Vertex Color. This one, SVCol. This is gonna be the name of attribute that's storing the color for each vertices. Copy, paste. So now I think everything is almost connected. Plug in the objects. Now, if we select these objects, look at the data, we have SVCol as Vertex Color. Okay, and let's check the color. All right, so we have this color. It looks like rainbow color. We try vertex face loop. We are not getting this color, right? You might be wondering why, because apparently in the next incoming Blender versions, we're gonna have the ability to have transparency for vertex color. So not just RGB, but also RGBA. That's why there's this weird color happening here, because currently in my Blender versions, I don't have the RGBA. I'm actually working with the RGB only. So yeah, I need to switch to RGB, and then now in here, I need to somehow plug in some kind of value that's only giving RGB. This is how I do it in the old live noding. Oops. Blender crashes. I'll restart. Okay, file, save as, ignore, file, save as. So let's say I'm having like random vector, and can be any value. If I plug this into this guy, this will not, this guy, oh, seems to be happy taking the vector value. Supposedly we need to do the conversion. You see, vector value is RG, like 3 values. This guy is 4 values RGBA for the color. Ideally that should be, you know, should be something like this, vector out. So this is 3 values and we separate it into X, Y, Z. We can represent that as RGB and then we can use alpha or not, and this goes in there. So now it's actually, it doesn't work like this. It's but it works if you are doing it this way. It's just, we need, if we are doing it this way, we need to take considerations of the alpha. Well, for simplicity, we just select this node, switch to RGB, unplug, put in our random RGB. So slightly abstract, slightly confusing maybe, but you'll understand that really quickly. Okay, so just to let you know, this new node is merging the older Vertex Color nodes with a newer one, and then so we have this RGB and RGBA kind of switch. RGB is simpler, no alpha whatsoever. Okay, so we can now have this ability to colorize based on polygon phase, or just colorize based on the vertices. So that's why you get this kind of blurry kind of image. This is quite common. And you can also have the loop. I actually have to thank the Sverchok developer who made these nodes. This is actually very, very useful nodes. So any objects, you can simply just get it and apply the same material so we can see the color, and then so it's gonna display the Vertex Color for us. So yeah, this makes everything really, really simple. And at any time in point, let's say for this grid, you want to look at the color based on the vertices. Let's try. There you go. You get this kind of color. It's like very typical, like a normal or normal point positions color, kind of spreading in all directions. There is also vertex normal, if I'm not wrong. There's a way to calculate vertex normal. So this, if we plug in the vertices and polygon there, and then plug in the normal, we get this normal color, right? This is maybe you're already familiar with, maybe you're not, but it's good to know. Let's say for Suzanne, if we get Suzanne, you can see this is Suzanne based on the vertex normal color. Maybe we need to normalize it. I don't know. Vector normal. So vector math maybe, and normalize. Yeah, not sure if this is giving the right value that I want, but it's good to know. And oh, we actually need to switch to vertices. I just remember. So same with this guy, and also with this guy, grid. Okay, so this is the normal of the grid. Let's say at any time in point, if I just make changes to the points of the grid, update it, we can see it's giving a different color for that points that's being pulled out. Same thing with this guy, for example, the torus. If we give it like some kind of modifier, displace it with a noise. Cloud. So we're gonna get a different color if we turn on post modifier. And yeah, you can see how the color actually influencing the mesh, or in fact this is actually the mesh influencing the color. It's the other way around. Yeah, so this is actually pretty much it. If you can continue, let's say you want to get also, there's one more thing you can get the polygon center, and then based on the center of polygons, you can get the normals. You can plug into this guy and then switch to face. You might be getting a different result. Let me try matrix out. You see, you get a different result there. You can try the normals here and plug into this guy and as a vertices, and you get this result. But I kind of like this one. Yeah, this kind of interesting value. That's the vertex normal. Let's try grabbing the torus again. Yeah, so you can see all the abstract values you can source from 3D mesh, whether it's a vertices point positions as a vector. You can translate all of those directly into the color, and you get a better visualizations of what the objects actually is. And so, and of course you can do more, like for example, at any time in point, if you let's say you use a vector noise and then you plug in just the vertices position here just because you're curious and then you want to see what's the color now, you just plug it in, and then now you have noise coloring each vertices of the objects. So we are dealing a lot with the component levels. This is actually in a cycles material. If I'm not wrong, you can also kind of see that. So for objects like let's make another objects, maybe a cone, and then we create a new materials, and I'm gonna copy this one, paste. If we plug in things like generated UV or the normal or the UV or the objects, what is this? The objects. This actually gives similar color to this guy. So this, I think, obviously this texture coordinate is giving out some kind of value. Whether it's you don't know the value because in cycles you can't really see the values, you know, unless you maybe use like a script. I don't know if this is actually, I think it's a good idea to make a script that's actually just print out the value. But things like this is very, very much abstract for us. If you're not familiar with all this, what is generated, what is normal, what is UV, what is all this, you know, it's a, but once you plug it into the color, you can suddenly see it. So that's really important, I think. So yeah, so that's how I want to talk about the Vertex Color. Remember this Vertex Color new, Vertex Color MK3 is a combination of the old nodes. So now you have the options to switch between RGB and RGBA. That's the most important part. At some point when we switch to Blender 2.8 or newer Blender, we might need to just work with RGBA. But anytime in point you want to, sometimes you want to see just 3 values, this is where you have these options. So again, thanks to Sverchok developer for all the efforts. I'm pretty sure this like hours of work there to make our life easier. So there you go, that's Sverchok Vertex Color in comparison to Cycles with the way it's displaying color using texture coordinates. You can compare. This guy, of course, works with points, vertex points. Depending on the detail of the mesh, you will get different result. With the cycles, it's gonna work not in the vertex level, but it's deeper, I guess. But anyhow, that's how you can kind of visualize a lot of abstract informations, whether it's vertex positions, whatever noise, you can visualize simply by using nodes. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye.